either way, I want to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks right here because I think this team has a lot of pressure to win a title as well this year. Let me just say this about Giannis as far as his future goes with Milwaukee. Obviously, Milwaukee's been a good team, and Giannis, a lot of people did not think that Giannis was going to be this good of a player. I got to credit the Milwaukee Bucks for drafting him and for Giannis developing. But see, the thing is, Milwaukee's not a big-time free agent destination place. So what does that mean? That means that as far as the Milwaukee Bucks go, in order to continue to ascend and build a championship team, you have to either keep the core intact, you have to draft well, and you have to make trades for big-time players. And this team last year, well, not last year, but basically this last offseason, they let Malcolm Brogdon walk. Not a good look for the organization, okay? And I look at some of these Eastern Conference teams. I think Boston has a great future. I like what Toronto's doing. The Brooklyn Nets, I think that they might be the favorites next year if Kevin Durant comes back, being the Kevin Durant that we know. Obviously, Miami has some things that they bring to the table. And I look at teams out west. I think the Dallas Mavericks can surprise a lot of people next year. Not this year, but next year. I look at the Warriors coming back, the Lakers, the Clippers. We talked about that. Honestly, I just think that if Giannis is going to win a title if he's going to win a title in Milwaukee, this is the year, because I don't think next year the Bucks are going to be the best team out east. I just think that some team might overtake them. And ultimately, I look at Giannis and I say, if I don't win a championship this year, I would seriously consider leaving that franchise, because we're in an era in which great players leaving a team is kind of accepted. We saw it with Kevin Durant. We saw it with LeBron James and things of that nature. So I know they'll be a competitive team, but I don't know if Giannis will ever get it done as far as winning the Bucks a championship. So if I were Giannis, I would potentially consider leaving. What are your thoughts?
I don't think that they're ever going to get to a point so long as they keep the core that they have now. And obviously, Brook Lopez is on the older side. Eric Bledsoe is on the older side. So I could see them hitting a peak and then starting to decline from there. I don't think they're ever going to be a non-playoff team so long as Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo are there. But when we talk about the possibility of Giannis leaving, I just don't see it, man. And maybe this is me being optimistic. I know people have thrown the Warriors out there. Obviously, people are going to throw the Knicks out there, however unrealistic that might be. But Giannis is coming up on his free agency, and he could look to relocate himself to a place where he's going to have a better chance of winning. But I just don't see that in the dude. Though, if there's one thing that we've seen from Giannis Antetokounmpo since he's entered the NBA, is that he's the type of person that's going to want to make things happen himself. He's very humble. He's very, he's very homegrown type. He's not the type of dude to want to go latch himself onto somebody else's bandwagon. I feel like he's just going to want to stay in Milwaukee and trust the organization to build a team around him. He doesn't seem like the type of dude to jump ship at all. He wants to work hard. He wants to win with Milwaukee. And I know that we've seen stuff like that in the past with other superstars. With Kyrie, he's all in on Boston. Next thing you know, the dude is out. But he just does not strike me as the type of dude to jump ship at all, man. I would be very, very shocked if especially for him to go join the Warriors, because that would be essentially him latching his, however people want to put it. I know we even had the conversation last time I was on the show with Kevin Durant. I will still hold to the fact that I believe Kevin Durant hitched his wagon onto Stephen Curry. Anyone that goes to the Warriors will be ultimately hitching their wagon onto Stephen Curry. Hell, if LeBron, maybe I won't go that far. I'll say it. If LeBron James were to leave the Lakers for the Warriors, that's obviously not going to happen. But my point being, anybody that leaves their team to go to the Golden State Warriors, wagon on to Stephen Curry. So I don't think that's going to be that's just not the type of thing that I see Giannis doing at all. He seems like the type of dude that wants to lead the way, almost Damian Lillard-esque, right? We've seen little Damian Lillard stick it out through thick and thin with the Portland Trail Blazers. No matter how bad it got, he was always the guy that stayed with his franchise and tried to make it happen for them, even though that team has made lapses over the course of his entire career and really hasn't done him a justice. But I feel like Giannis is the type of dude to stick around, man. I would be floored if he left Milwaukee.
Now, if you were Giannis, would you consider leaving?
Yes. If I was in Giannis' shoes, and Giannis is a different type of beast. If I were in his shoes, I would most definitely weigh my options, maybe go to a team that has a certain level of salary cap, because it almost feels like if they don't win a championship this year, then they would have plateaued as a team, because they've played their best basketball this entire year. If they can't go and I think Giannis, honestly, he looks at last season as his fault. Even though I don't, when we talk about, the Toronto Raptors and with everything that they did with the wall, everybody likes to put that on Giannis. That was not the fault of Giannis Antetokounmpo. When you flood the paint with that many players, what your job is, if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, is to kick the ball out to open shooters. And that's exactly what he did. The shooters were just not making shots. But I still feel like Giannis is the type of dude that would put that on himself, saying, I couldn't break through that wall. This is on me. Right? So I think that, at this point in time, Giannis views it as his burden to carry for Milwaukee. Now, if we see another situation where his teammates are time and again coming short, maybe he considers moving on. Definitely I would if I were in his shoes. If my teammates were coming up short and I felt like that the team that the organization, the franchise was putting around me just wasn't cutting it, I would definitely look elsewhere. But again, I just don't think Giannis is that type of dude. If I were Damian Lillard, I would have looked to jump ship for a while ago. If I'm Devin Booker, I probably would have wanted out of Phoenix. That's just the type of dude that I am. I hate losing. I know Giannis hates losing, but I feel like he's the type of dude to put the burden on himself rather than on other people.
Yeah, I agree with you. I personally do not think Giannis is the type of dude that would look to leave. I was just more kind of, discussing if, you think that you would leave, and you kind of agree with me about that. And like you said, after this year, they played their best basketball. They've been the best. They've had the best record in the NBA the last 2 years. They might plateau after this year. Now, as far as what you said about Giannis last year failing in the playoffs, I tend to agree with you. I don't think that that was all on Giannis. I looked at Chris Middleton, didn't see him in the big moments. I looked at Eric Bledsoe, didn't see him in the big moments. These guys did not step up, and that is my point. I just think I don't know if Chris Middleton is that guy going forward as a second option. I look at the other stars in the NBA. LeBron's got AD. Okay, Kevin Durant's gonna have Kyrie Irving by his side and things of that nature. I just think that Giannis, I don't know if Chris Middleton is the guy going forward that's going to be that dominant second option to take you over the top. I just haven't seen it. Now, maybe this year in the playoffs he proves me wrong. But yeah, I don't think Milwaukee really has a closer. And Giannis is the type of, player that you need to get the ball to him. And he's not really a guy that's going to beat you, playing one-on-one basketball all the time. You got to get the ball to him. And if you put that wall around him, it becomes a time where you have to rely on other shooters to make shots, and those guys just have not made shots. So that's why I think that Giannis should really consider leaving. I think that Miami is a great option for Giannis if he were to potentially, go elsewhere. What are your thoughts on potentially Miami and maybe something else that I said?
Well, I want to address what you said about Chris Middleton, because I do like Chris Middleton as a player. It's just like you said, those big moments where I need him to start showing up a little bit more. And I do think he has it in him, right? We saw, I think it was that Celtics series, I want to say 2 years ago. That dude was coming up huge. He was coming up huge in some of those bigger moments. He just didn't do it last year like he would have liked him to. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, you gave me one. I lost you on one. Let me see what you do this year. And that'll really be where I draw my line in terms of how I view Chris Middleton as the second option. But I give him the benefit of the doubt. In terms of where you think that Giannis could go, I'm not sure about Miami, man, because the way their team is currently constructed, it's very shooting oriented. And when you have guys like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, you have, and you're going to use Jimmy Butler, who had the worst shooting streak of his career. I want to say he was under 30% from three this year, which is ridiculous. I'm not sure if you want to put Jimmy Butler and Giannis on the court at the same time. That I feel like you're lacking some spacing that you would need there. Although, talent prevails a lot of the time. So I can see it. I think a better fit would be the best fit, and I hate to keep going back to this. The ultimate fit would be the Golden State Warriors. That would just be ridiculous. I don't even want to think about it, because we saw how it went with Kevin Durant. Imagine having Giannis Antetokounmpo with Stephen Curry's off-ball movement ability, with Klay Thompson's spot-up ability. I don't even want to think about that, man. A pick and roll with Draymond as the ball handler, Stephen Curry as Giannis as the screener, and then you have Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry running around on the perimeter trying to get open. That's just hell for any defense. They don't want to deal with that. I just don't even want to think about that. So in terms of a realistic possibility that I could see Giannis, if he did want to jump ship, I think of all the teams, man, I don't know. It's really tough, but I think you want to go somewhere where, at the very least, he's not latching himself onto someone else's train, but he's kind of creating something for himself. So I could see the New York Knicks, but that really just does not seem like his style to go anywhere else, especially New York, because that's kind of the flashiness, and he doesn't seem to be about that, man. So, I just keep arriving at Milwaukee. I don't think that Giannis leaves and goes anywhere, man. He's the type of dude that's going to want to stick it out. That's my ultimate prediction.
Yeah, I agree with most of the things that you said. If I were to bet, I would probably say Giannis does stay. But if I were him, I would weigh my options. And like you said, if he goes to Golden State, man, that's a loaded juggernaut right there. We saw what Kevin Durant did with that team. Giannis is a great fit as well, especially with the spacing. The lane will be fully open for Giannis to do his thing. And defensively, too, what Giannis brings to the table. So, Golden State is the ideal fit. I do not think he joins Steph Curry. Giannis, like you said, is the type of guy that doesn't like to necessarily join other players. And he actually said that. He's been quoted saying that I'm not trying to join someone else. I just think that if I'm Giannis, I would consider, my options. But yeah, maybe he makes it work in Milwaukee. A lot of pressure on that team this year. We shall see. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.